Hey, happy Monday. This is Joe Hoft, the Monday after Easter, celebrating the Easter weekend and happy to be here. Lots going on, as you maybe already know. We're going to talk about a lot of it from the fake news to the Pope's death to all sorts of stuff going on, the economy, etc. Um, World Economic Forum. Lots going on today. God bless America. God bless you. And may you always be blessed. And thank you for coming here for the truth because this is where you go. You got to keep spread the word. This is the place to go. The Joe Hoff Show is awesome. And we're going to keep sharing the truth. We're going to keep sharing the truth. We're going to keep sharing the truth. Like Trump said, we're going to keep winning, winning, winning. You're going to say no more winning. And we're going to keep winning, winning. And that's what we're doing here. We're going to keep sharing the truth. We're going to keep sharing the truth. We're going to keep sharing the truth because that's what you deserve and because that's godly. I actually heard a statement, was actually talking to my brother Jim over the weekend. He'd watched the Passion movie, and there was this line in there about the truth. And Jesus said something like, well, when you speak the truth, you speak, my words, something like that. And, so true. So true. I think God and truth are the same thing, you know? And the lie and the devil is the same thing. And whatever you call it, the devil, evil, whatever, this antichrist thing, this anti civilization, as Elon would say, George Soros is anti civilization. That's what it all is. The plans are set out by God, and I love what actually the creator of the Passion movie, Mel Gibson, said with Joe Rogan not long ago. He said something like, "Well, there must be something really special about us humans because." As he put it, he's working on a new movie, I think a sequel to The Passion. It's about the resurrection, which is what we celebrated yesterday. How Jesus was risen from the dead, and what an incredible miracle that was after the horrible torture and suffering that he went through just days prior. Here he rises from the dead after he's killed and is in the tomb for 3 days. And anyways, um, what Mel Gibson says is that there's these other dimensions as he's looking at the resurrection. There's this other dimension that are fighting over us. There's angels versus demons, and you've seen it even in cartoons as kids. There'd be the devil and there'd be the angel on some cartoon figures' shoulders. And he says there must be something special about us that people are fighting over us, fighting over our soul. So it's really important what we're doing here. And it's really important what we're doing here at the Joe Hoff Show and what we're doing in America. We've got to make this world a better place for all of us. That's what it's all about. It's about our children. It's about the future. It's about civilization, as Elon Musk says. And so, and things happen, and we just got to continue to stay on the side of the truth, and we will succeed. We will win. We will always win as long as we're on the side of the truth. So, thank you for being here. Appreciate you passing on the Joe Hoff Show to your friends and family. Appreciate you passing on Untamed Truth and Untamed Nation, and also appreciate you, supporting me through my books. I've wrote these 3 books on the steel. I think I'm working on consolidating the three. I've already consolidated them in Italian. If you know Italian, you can go to joehoff.com and get. You can purchase any of these books individually or the consolidated Italian version. But we're working on a consolidated version right now. So there you go. There's a store page on joehoff.com where you can purchase these books. Appreciate you doing so. I discounted it for a long time, but after I wrote that first book, President Trump took his time, this kind of man he is, to write me a special message and email, and not emailed, he mailed it to me, a message thanking me for writing the book on the steel and looking forward to my other volumes. What an incredible gift that was for me. I'm going to cherish it. The longer I live, the more I'll cherish that note. So that's what I tried to do. Let's just tell the truth. Let's just tell the truth about 2020. And my background, as many of you know, is executive overseas for years, overseeing audit and finance, multi-billion-dollar finance operations, multi-billion-dollar audit operations for and audits that I've done. And It's all about telling the truth, and that my perspective was the election was stolen because it never should have been certified. There's no way a man of integrity or a woman of integrity would ever have certified that election. And it's really unfortunate we've put a lot of people in harm's way, and some of them are rotten. Some of them weren't rotten, and they just wanted to do the right thing, and we gave them the wrong tools to do that. So we've got to fix all that, simplify this process, and move forward in the elections, or we end this beautiful experiment called the United States of America. So lots to work on. The main thing that I see that's going on, though, is that we're fighting against communists. We're fighting against communism. We're fighting against evil. It's synonymous. It's all the same thing. And lies. You see, lies, communism, evil, Hitler, Mao. That's the same thing. That's one bucket. We've got Jesus and the truth over here in a bucket, and we're in the middle trying to and trying to decipher that. We all want the truth, and that's why we're here. Well, the media doesn't want that, and we're seeing some of these guys really wake up to it in Trump's cabinet. For example, his the Secretary of Treasury, Bessent, shared. We're going to show this clip in a moment. What he thinks now, he didn't even really understand fake news. Now he says it's beyond that. What he's facing, this stuff is made up. So, anyways, here's his comments on fake news from the new Treasury Secretary under President Trump.
When I was on the other side of the wall, I never really liked the term fake news. Now that I am on the inside and I can see what they're reporting, I think the term fake news probably isn't strong enough. It's really not. That they start with an a priori, they've written the story, and then they just kind of shape shift facts to back into it, because many of the stories that I've been involved with are just so far off, so far off. There was a story in the New York Times the other day that talked about 50% headcount decreases at the IRS. Nobody's talking about that. These were on background, these were not named sources, and they're just trying to stir tumult during taxpayer filing season. I mean, it's crazy.
That is so spot on. He's a brilliant guy. I love it. I love it that this guy, he's been picked. So far, I'd say, give him an A. This guy's been doing some great work. He's been trying to talk. I think he's brilliant. There's some hesitation that I have, and that he worked with Soros apparently in the past, but he's certainly a brilliant guy. Let's pray to God that he's on the side of truth and honor and integrity going forward, because that's what we need. That's all we want. And he really nailed it there. A priori, and then they shape shift facts to match their imagination. It's unbelievable. How many times do we see that in the news? They come up with this bogus narrative. Trump is bad, and then they try to find anything, when in reality he's really been one genuine, honest, good man, and that the American people love, and that they could see through the attacks from the left, not just the fake news, but the physical attacks and assassination attempts against this man, the attempts to imprison him for life for no crimes at all, made up crimes. This is what we're up against. It's ultimately the lie. I think if we put that in perspective, it's the lie that we're fighting. We will win because we've got Jesus and the truth on our side. There you have it. So Pete Hegseth has been going through a lot too, and he knows these guys. He's worked in with Fox News for a number of years. He knows who the fakesters are. He came out with some messages at the Easter egg roll here. I believe it was yesterday. It might have been this morning, but anyways, here's Pete Hegseth talking about this fake news media.
What do you want to say, sir, about the Signal chat controversy?
What a big surprise that a few leakers get fired and suddenly a bunch of hit pieces come out from the same media that peddled the Russia hoax. Won't give back their Pulitzers. They got Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. Pulitzers for a bunch of lies and on hoaxes, time and time and time again. And as they peddle those lies, no one ever calls them on it. See, this is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me, because we're changing the Defense Department. putting the Pentagon back in the hands of warfighters, and anonymous smears from disgruntled former employees on old news, doesn't matter. So I'm happy to be here at the Easter egg roll with my dad and my kids, because, you know, this is what we're doing it for. These kids right here. This is why we're fighting the fake news media. This is why we're fighting slash and burn Democrats. This is why we're fighting hoaxsters. This group, no, this group right here, full of hoaxsters that peddle anonymous sources from leakers with axes to grind, and then you put it all together as if it's some news story. And when we know it, we know exactly what it is. So I'm really proud of what we're doing for the president, fighting hard across the board, and I'm going to go roll some Easter eggs with my kids. Thank you very much. Have spoken to the president, and we are going to continue fighting on the same page all the way. Come on, guys.
Hoaxsters. That's what they are. Hoaxsters. That's great. Well done, Mr. Hegseth, Secretary Hegseth. Well done. Keep making our military great again. I love what he's done already about saying, hey, you've got to be, if you're going to be in the military, you're going to be in certain roles, you got to be able to do them. We're not going to put women in roles that they can't do physically. And so we're going to address that. And he's doing all that. So well done, Pete Hegseth. So anyways, that's the news that's you don't hear from our media. The media wants to push these lies. A big news that happened over the weekend was, and really overnight, I just heard about it this morning, was that Pope Francis has died. I put up a piece at joehawk.com this morning. I think most of the media is probably reporting on it, that Pope Francis has died. I've heard a lot about Pope Francis. He's been something else. There's a lot of people believe he was evil even. And there's a lot of Catholics that say that he's a great man. There's a lot of Catholics that maybe not so much. I will tell you, I'm Catholic, grew up Catholic, and so just that's where I'm coming from on some of this. But I tell you what, this Pope Francis, I was not a fan of. One guy who I am a big fan of is Archbishop Vigano. He shared a number of articles with me concerning what's going on, especially after COVID and the stolen election. And really admire that guy. I have also a signed written letter from him myself. And here's what he has to say about Pope Francis. He's pretty harsh. It's a bit difficult to understand his English, but there is some writing below that you can follow along. He is not a fan of Francis. Francis he just wasn't a good guy. Listen to what Vigano has to say.
The Fourth Revolution, theorized by Klaus Schwab and the family of international finance, find in Bergoglio not a neutral spectator, which would itself already be an unheard of thing, but actually a zealous cooperator who abuses his own moral authority in order to support ad extra, outside the church, the project of the dissolution of traditional society. While ad intra, within the church, he pursues the project of the demolition of the church in order to replace her with a philanthropic organization of Masonic inspiration. And it is scandalous. This applies to both, to civil and ecclesiastical world, confirming the pactum sceleri, the criminal conspiracy between the deep state and the deep church. It seems to me that in this conspiracy, the role of the Jesuit has been decisive. It is no coincidence that, for the first time in history, a religious of the Society of Jesus is seated on the throne of Peter.
Wow. Not sure if you captured that. He goes after the Jesuits. He goes after the deep church is what he calls it, that is synonymous and working in tandem with the deep state. I think that's spot on. John Podesta said years ago, maybe a couple decades ago, we got to get the church. And that's what they did. They attempted a coup d'etat and not just attempted, but succeeded in replacing the Pope Benedict with Pope Francis. I've had people on the show talking about it. There's a book called the Benedictine Code, where it was the Pope that was replaced. In various messages that he hinted at, saying, "Hey, I was replaced unjustly." And that's what happened. The first pope in 1,000 years that didn't die to be replaced was Pope Benedict, who was right before Pope Francis. They come in, they usurp his papacy, replace him with Francis, and now Francis has died. Ironically, we saw we saw the vice president going to the church and visiting with the Pope yesterday, Pope Francis. Today he and then overnight he dies. So probably be some conspiracy on that. So, anyways, I saw this one piece. It's from Lara Logan. She shares this movie trailer, and she says, if you know, the Hollywood is constantly trying to tell us what's going to happen, this piece is something else. So there will be a conclave, which means all the cardinals around the world will come to Rome, and together they'll choose the new pope, and we will see who they choose. It's going to be really important. We need a lot of prayers because the Catholic Church still has more than a billion members worldwide. It's really important, and so let's yeah, that's what Lara Logan's shared. Maybe we can share that clip real quick. It's pretty interesting. It's about this movie called The Conclave. We'll see how that ties in with what's going to happen here in the next few weeks.
The Pope is dead. The throne is vacant.
What happened? They say a heart attack.
You know how rumor spreads, and 1.25 billion souls watching.
Well gotten, no, Lawrence. It seems the responsibility for the conclave falls upon you. The supervision of this election. This is a duty I never thought I'd have to perform. They are sequestered, and they must be shielded from all news that may influence their judgment. You understand? No sane man would want the papacy. The men who are dangerous are the ones who do want it. That sounds ominous. I wonder if I could have a word in private. You look anxious. Everything under control. How has this been kept a secret for so long? We'll never find a candidate who doesn't have any kind of black mark against them.
Although we sisters are supposed to be invisible, God has nevertheless given us eyes and ears.
You should be careful, Thomas.
This is a conclave, Aldo. It's not a war.
It is a war. And you have to commit to a side.
There is one sin which I have come to fear above all others. Certainty. If there was only certainty and no doubt, there would be no mystery. And therefore no need for faith.
That's pretty powerful stuff, isn't it? Amazing, amazing video there. I'd like to see the movie, quite frankly. So we'll have to take a look. The Catholic Church has been under attack. I reported this morning, the only thing that's gone up in the Catholic Church, at least in the US, I believe, the statistics came from the Pew Research, were the fact that it's made more money under federal grants, and that's all, as we all know, that's due to Catholic Charities making millions and millions, helping with the illegal invasion of illegals from other countries into the U.S. and justified, I believe, probably by the church to say we're helping the poor, we're helping the suffering, but at the same time ignoring immigration laws in this country. Catholic Church had a big part of all this, and its hands are, I'd say, they're certainly in it, and so. Immigration's been a big thing around the world. I saw this morning. It's a Catholic priest. I'm not sure if he's a cardinal or bishop or who. Looks like he's from overseas in Europe. And he talks about this immigration and what it's been to the whole world. Anyways, take a look at this, a short clip from this priest from overseas talking about the West and the history of the West going forward.
Yes, this is very serious. Now we are witnessing an invasion. They are not refugees. No, this is an invasion of mass Islamization of Europe, which already went on for at minimum 50, 60 years, Islamization in Europe. But now it is in mass. It is very evident. And so this is a global political agenda by the powerful of the world to destroy Europe culturally and religiously. I mean, to destroy Christianity ultimately in Europe, with the help of the massive Islamic population. And I was reading recently an article of a sociologist who made a calculation that maybe in 30 or 40 years, when it's now going on, so the majority of the population of Europe will be Islamic. Europe will be Islamic when this will go on, because the European people have almost no children, 1 or 2. The Muslims there, they have 5, 6 to 10 children, and so it is. You can only make mathematics, and then you can see that they will be in the majority. And so maybe it is a permission of God that then the church, being surrounded by Islamic society, which is not tolerant and which will not be tolerant, and then the Christianity in the church will be maybe purified with this, and the purification is good also sometimes.
That's what's going on right now for sure. I tell you what, really historic days. I mean, Pope Francis dies. Every day lately is just so big and impactful. Not only did Pope Francis die overnight, but apparently Klaus Schwab from the World Economic Forum has totally resigned overnight. So two big things happening, and probably nobody's better to kind of explain some of this other than Alex Jones, who's been after both for some time. Take a look at this.
Two huge events happened today. Pope Francis died and Klaus Schwab completely resigned from the WEF. Both of these are massive events. Now, it's not nice to talk bad about the dead, but the facts are Pope Francis was the first Jesuit pope. When they set up the Jesuits over 500 years ago to police the Catholic Church, it was expressly against the law, canon law, to have one be a pope. Because you can't have the Praetorian Guard that supposedly protect the faith of Jesus, then be the ones that would obviously put their guy in. But that happened. So all the globalists had to do was get control of the Jesuits, which they totally turned into a huge leftist, basically communist arm in the last 100 years. Then they had control of the Catholic Church. Like every other major institution has been taken over by the globalists. We're now in the process of humanity awakening and taking back the institutions all over the world. Catholics are great people. That's why the globalists have been targeting traditional Catholics, trying to outlaw them and say they're criminals. But if you really want to take over the different large sects Christianity, you've got to take over the leadership of it. So his death, when he promoted open borders and one world religion and just criticized President Trump and other populist leaders and went on, is really emblematic of the overall collapsing globalist system we see. And I say, God have mercy on his soul. I'm not going to judge him. But most Catholics I know absolutely think that he was a terrible, terrible pope. Now, moving on to who we know is pure evil, and that is Klaus Schwab, the protege of Henry Kissinger, the mouthpiece of the UN and the globalists. 2 years ago, they made the WEF co-equal with the UN under global government. I mean, this is massive. So 6 months ago, he resigns as the chairman. That wasn't enough. Then he resigned off the main committee. Now he's completely resigned from the WEF today because he's so hated and nobody wants to be part of that organization, and it's falling apart. It was the preeminent globalist organization just a few years ago. You will eat the bugs. And now it is falling down in front of everybody. And all of their policies around the world are being shut down. And the U.S. taxpayer money through USAID and the EPA, hundreds of millions a year, is being cut off. And so the mouth of the New World Order is discredited, is falling apart. And Klaus Schwab just said 2 years ago he would never resign. Now he's completely gone out of the organization he founded. Be really the public.
Paul, you can, thanks. Hey, we're back. That was Alex Jones laying it out. The Pope's gone, and so is Klaus Schwab. So big day in world history. We will see the ramifications here, I guess, in the next days, weeks, months, and years. That's for sure. So God bless America, this world, and God bless you. And thanks for listening in. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and change the narrative a bit. We're going to talk more about what's happening here in this country. We're going to talk with one of my favorite people, one of the brightest guys I know, too, about election integrity, Greg Stenstrom. So we'll be right back after this.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
Hi, I'm Joe, Supreme Leader of DCF. What is DCF, you ask? We're the best damn sandwich shop in the universe. Do we sell hoagies? Well, we're DCF, and the F doesn't stand for hoagies. We got 9mm sandwiches, we got beastly baguettes, and we toast buns like no other. Looking for training on bun safety? We got you covered, and our ranges are the best place to test out your new Not sandwich. So get your buns out, cause the sun's out, and let's party! We're not actually a sandwich shop.
Every day, millions of people fall victim to online threats. Over 30 million spam calls are made per day in America, with over 50% of daily emails being considered spam. Introducing Safe and Secure. With the advanced programs, you'll be able to stay in control and keep hackers out. Don't let the cyber criminals win. Safe and Secure. Shield against hackers and embrace peace of mind.
Hey, we're back. This is the Joe Hoff Show here on Untamed Nation. As I mentioned before, we've got a great guest today. Without any further ado, I'll just bring him in right away. We got a lot to unwind here. So Mr. Greg Stenstrom is with us today. Greg, welcome to the Joe Hoff Show. Me too.
and always fun to watch the beginning. The show. I watched the tail end of the segment before I'm on. So very interesting. Alex Jones. He's one of my favorites to watch. Very just very in your face. So it's a great
I
page.
used to, it's funny. I was at an Easter dinner yesterday with some relatives, and they brought in some of their relatives who I didn't know. And this one guy, I mentioned Alex Jones. Something brought that. I guess that we were talking about warfare, and I mentioned how Bannon said that warfare is economic, it's information, and then it's kinetic. And I saw him say that years ago. And then I mentioned Alex Jones says that like 95% of warfare now is information. And this guy had a negative reaction when I said Alex Jones. And I might have had that 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago, just because the media just continued to slam him. But I've got a lot of respect for Alex today. A lot of things he said were spot on, and can't salute him enough now. So anyways,
he's paid heavily.
Hasn't he?
He is paid heavily, heavily. The strategy of his opposition, our opposition, actually the country's opposition, is isolate, contain, and destroy. And they do it to anybody who's a threat to them. They went after Alex Jones. They went after Mike Lindell. They've been after, Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro, and, the list goes on. Tina Peters, just
Jim Hoft, Joe Hoft, and Gateway Pundit. I mean, we're still under
Gateway Pundit. I was going to say, Jim, you
always every day under attack. You
and Jim, and
every day.
It's reached a level of peak. I don't know if they've peaked yet, but it's reached a level of insanity that I think it's helping the country to really understand the depths that these people will go to, the lengths that they will go to suppress messages, suppress the truth. And, leads to a good segue into the current news. And that's that we have a King's Bench, which is a special tribunal by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. It's held under special circumstances. We filed it last week. The defendants, which are multiple defendants, have until 3:00 to respond with their briefs. And it's 1:30, past 1:30, and they haven't said boo. So I didn't know if you had any prelude questions before I dove into it, or you wanted me to just
let's just start. Let's step back. Let's step back a quick moment and maybe just kind of tell us how you got into all this, your background a bit, and then what happened in 2020, and then how that's led to today, because this is a big deal that you got going on.
Yeah, I was a career naval officer, academy grad, only because a lot of the people that I work with now are classmates and West Pointers, and some people who have come from the service academies and some of the higher institutions of higher learning in the country. And I spent, after that career, I spent the rest of, I'm still doing it, in security, investigation of fraud for the federal government, for state governments and municipal governments. I've recovered over $2 billion in funds that were stolen by corrupt officials for the United States government and state governments. I've put people in prison, high-level officials, including had some U.S. congressmen and U.S. senators resign as a result of some of my work. And that's how I got called. And I went into got called in and went into November of 2020. I was asked to observe the election in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. And in a nutshell, as expected, we saw massive election fraud and reported it. And because of my experience with the federal government and state governments and so forth, I had the cell phone number of the U.S. Attorney for Eastern Pennsylvania, Bill McSwain, on my phone. So, gave him a buzz and said, hey, look, we have 7 machines here, down here. I think if we come down and we get a forensic team in here, we can prove the massive election fraud. Filed a 26 or 27 page declaration detailing in great detail the election fraud, who the actors were, how they did it with the mail-in ballots. One of the things that we found was they ingested 130,000 fake mail-in ballots, and they were fake. And we had to fight our way into a back room, and we found 70,000 real mail-in ballots. So they had only mailed out 104,000, so they said. Mailed out 104, they counted 130, and which were all fake. And there were 70,000 real ballots in the back room. We also determined that they use electronic fraud, which has really increased in sophistication over the last 4 years. But 4 years ago, the way they did it was simply with these USB drives. They're actually, the technical term is a V drive for hard intercivic. And they were using the electronic V drives to change the electronic vote. So we caught them with mail-in ballot fraud. We caught them with electronic fraud, documented it, went up to U.S. Attorney William Barr. We got FOIA requests for all this. And what we found was a collaborative interagency effort to obstruct investigations. And William Barr was at the center of that. And Rod Rosenstein, later Merrick Garland, the head of the FBI, Christopher Wray. And at the center of it, what we found was Inspector General Horowitz. So those three in particular obstructed the investigations. We later found out that the people around President Trump that he trusted or had been recommended to him to trust were doing them in. White House counsel being one of them, and his two assistant White House counsels, right after they recommended to Trump that he not fight, which he did anyways, against their advice. They
was
ended
that
up
Cipollone? Is that who that was?
Cipollone, yeah. So he now works for Barr at Torridon. So
really,
it leads up to what's happening now. Is President Trump learned, in his 2016 to 2020 term, what he learned was, he was, I'm not going to say new. He's not new. He's a multi-billionaire, one of the most successful men in the world. But he went into the government, not unaware, but he was trusting a lot of the people around him that had been career diplomats, career prosecutors, career U.S. attorneys, and people of substantial renown who had 25 and 30 years of experience in the government. So he went in and said, well, let me take the most experienced people. He has no problem firing people. If you remember The Apprentice, you're fired. He has no problem sorting that out. But he was surrounded by Confederates who went after him in every way possible. So what he's done this term, which I think is phenomenal and a very, very wise move, is most organizations, and President Trump not being an exclusion, what you want is a high trust person. So ideally, the perfect person is a high trust, high performing individual, as opposed to a low trust person who's high performing, which is what he had in 2016. He had high performing people who had experience in the government, but they were of low trust, and they did him in. So what he's done differently in this term, and I think with great success so far, is that he's put in high trust people. He trusts Pam Bondi. He trusts Kash Patel. He trusts Elon Musk. He trusts Kristi Noem. He trusts Tulsi Gabbard. They've earned positions of trust. He trusts Alina Habba, who's going U.S. attorney heading to New Jersey, as one example. So he's taken high trust individuals, and I wouldn't call them, they're not low performing, but they're new. If you think about it, they're not quite sure. It's only been a few months, 2 or 3 months. So they're going in trying to figure out who the Confederates are, who are the people that are suppressing them. And a good example of that would be, Pam Bondi with the Epstein release. I mean, that was a big, puff of air and a disappointment. It was embarrassing to her because she was trusting people who were close to her and, career employees of the U.S. Department of Justice, who she relied on, and the FBI and so forth, and they tanked her. So lesson learned. They'll only get to do it to her once or twice. So as they sort these things out, and you can see it happening with Hegsworth is a good example. He's had the I think it was I can't remember signal or the signal kerfuffle where someone got on a call that shouldn't have been on the call. Well, they found that leak, and he excised that leak. He's taking, going through the government and going through the military and the people who have been disloyal to the United States, traitorous to the United States. He's excising them like cancers. So I think as these people who are high trust individuals, as they sort the things out and their performance comes up to scale, it's high performer, high trust. So right now, they're not low performers, but they're high trust. And as they pick up speed, and pick up savvy and pick up experience, and they're getting experience really, really fast, what we're going to have is this regime and this administration of President Trump is going to be comprised of a cabinet. Everyone around him is high trust, and as they come up to speed, now we're going to have high performers, and you can see the results are just phenomenal. I mean, Alex Jones came on and said, "Wow, these guys are gone. These guys are gone." Hegsworth is getting rid of people. They're Elon Musk is just, what Doge has done is just jaw dropping. So we got these high trust people, and one of the things we've been working on, or I've been working on, across the country, not just here, is identifying at all levels, federal, state, and municipal, who the low trust people are, and weeding out and documenting who the culprits are, who the dishonest and traitorous people are, and not providing honest public service. But that being said, I want to say what's going to save us and save the country. The positive news is there's a lot, our premise, or we wouldn't even be bothering with this, is there's a lot of high trust people. I mean, there's a lot of good people out there, but when in the face of massive corruption and in the face of the Biden, I don't even know what to call the Biden regime. I mean, he was an illegitimate president. But when he was put in on January 20th, the way the Constitution works, people say, well, what's going to happen with the illegitimate president? What if we show that there was massive election fraud? Well, the Constitution, the way it works is whoever's sitting in that office on January 20th, whether they got there fair or square or cheated, they're the president for better or for worse. So, people are saying, oh, we'll overturn all these things, but that would make a disaster of the government as well. So it's up to President Trump. It's up to people like you, Joe, and Jim, and Alex Jones, myself. It's up to us to pick up the slack and bring things forward.
Yeah, this was Trump in a Easter message yesterday. Part of it here is he sends this out to the lunatic left, and he says this. He says, but to him and the person that ran the manipulated auto pen, Biden, and to all those people who cheated in the 2020 presidential election in order to get this highly destructive moron elected, I wish you, with great love, sincerity, and affection, a very happy Easter. Only Trump could do that. Got it. Just love the guy. Never seen anything like it. Just nobody would ever do that. Nobody. It's just unbelievable. Greg, let me step back 1 second. You mentioned, isn't he something? He's unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's so much fun. So much fun. If you're on the left, you're one of these lunatics that you're, 20% of America, your head's popping. If you're on the right, it has just been a fun run. Although it's been pretty brutal at times as the attacks come our way. But you mentioned early on, you started looking at this election. You were there in the county just south of Philadelphia, Delaware County, in 2020. You saw massive fraud, both mail fraud, where you say there's ballots that were in the back room, 70,000, but they counted these ballots up front, the 100,000. And then you say also that the machines, machines had issues as well. Were those two things in sync? Were they coordinated, or were they just almost like two separate deals? What do you think?
They were absolutely in sync, because the machines are what runs the mail. The mail-in ballots are essentially run through machines. That's how they're counted. If they were counted by hand, then it would be two separate outfits, or two separate vectors for fraud. but the mail-in ballots are also dependent on the machines as well that scan them. So one of the things that we saw with the fraud was anything that got rejected from the machines, they would reject Trump ballots. So they will reject undercard ballots. And then what they do is they remediate them. So any real ballots that happen to get through, they take them, they cull them out, and then they have to re-adjudicate and refill them out. So it's a pretty sophisticated strategy, simple to implement. I think it only takes maybe even one person, 1 to 5 people per precinct, per county. And the way they did it in 2020, and they've been cementing it, is in 2020, they looked at it and they just said, this is a math problem. We've got 3,143 counties in the United States that make up the 50 United States and other, contiguous territories and so forth that are allowed to vote. But 3,143. And when you do the math on it, it only takes 20 counties to change the outcome of the elections in the United States. So we just happen to be, I wouldn't say it fortuitous, but Delaware County was one of those counties. Now the other counties, and they're going to ring a bell for your people listening, were Wayne County and Antrim County, Racine County, Maricopa County, Fulton County. These names ring a bell. Philadelphia County. So what they did is they targeted in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, all swing states. They targeted specific counties that if they took over the vote and took 80, I think it was 86% of the vote they had to give, and pump the numbers up, they could literally neutralize the rest of the state. And they almost didn't pull it off. The night of the election in 2020, I was talking to people in the Trump campaign, and I, called, and they were celebrating. And I said, guys, they're setting everything down here. I got massive fraud. I've made phone calls. And they said, hey, Greg, we're up 600, I think it was 660 or 690,000 votes in Pennsylvania. And it's midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. So there's no way they can do this. And I told them, I said, I'm telling you, by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, you're going to be 100,000 down. And at the time, we didn't know about that they were targeting specific counties. But I said, right here in the state of Pennsylvania, you're going to lose Pennsylvania by tomorrow morning if you don't do something. And, people were reacting, but that's how they stole it in 2020. And then in 2024, they repeated. It's gotten more sophisticated. The election fraud now is worse. And we don't have in the entire country, United States of America, there's not a single election machine that has been properly tested and certified as required by 52 USC federal statute. Not one, not a single election machine in use in this country is certified for use. And we have hard physical evidence and admissions from the Secretary of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania admitting that there's fraudulent code, admitting that they're not certified. We have hard physical evidence that shows the machines aren't certified. This is how they're doing a lot of the fraud. And then with the mail-in ballots, they got more sophisticated. A lot of people, for registered voters, you have governors, corrupt governors, which Josh Shapiro, who's the governor of Pennsylvania, is a corrupt governor, but there's other ones. And what they did is they said, well, if you're registered, you can vote. And now they're creating new legislation that, quite frankly, I'm glad they're doing, but they don't need to. The law has always been on the books. The 26th Amendment says you have to be a U.S. citizen. You have to reside in the district you're voting in and lay your head there. The words are specific. It says you must lay your head in the district you're voting in. It says it specifically. You've got to be over 18. You've got to be a U.S. citizen. So a registered voter does not equal a qualified elector. If you look at the Constitution and you look at the federal laws, the local counties, they are responsible for taking the registered voters. Anyone can register. You can register your cat Fluffy. You can register an inanimate object. You can register 17 million illegal aliens. They don't actually vote. They're voted for. There's no illegal aliens. Well, not no, but there's very few comparatively, relatively few illegal aliens going and committing a third-degree felony on Election Day in front of uniformed police officers that will get them permanently deported. They were voted for. So what happens
I agree.
is there's some,
but that's a key point, though, Greg. I'll just interrupt. The key point. I don't think these illegals are doing it either. I've talked to some guys that know illegals, and it's like they're not doing anything to cause any disturbance. They want to stay here. They want to be here. They don't want to do anything to risk losing what they have here, and so they're not going to be going and voting. They're not doing a lot of things because of fear of being deported. So, yeah, I agree. They're not voting, but somebody is voting for them, I guess. In essence, their name is being used. And we did a study. I don't know if you saw this, Greg. I was working with Harry Hari, and was talking about this some time ago. We've been working on it in Orange County. There was a study these guys sent me. They said like 17% of the vote in California itself is probably not even U.S. citizens, based on the fact that, like you're saying, they just shove these people straight into the voter rolls from the driver's license bureau. Call it motor voter. And so we did a study in Orange County where six U.S. House seats were up for election. 5 of them go blue, and we come back, and our analysis was, and this with Harry Hari and United Sovereign Americans, the analysis showed 21% of the people that actually voted in this last election, or the votes were counted and associated with these people, meaning maybe the illegals didn't vote, but their name shows that it happened. 21% are either non-citizens, invalid, or just phantom voters. We don't know where these votes came from. 1 out of 5. And yet they're going to certify that election.
Well, we've hit it different ways. We have 582,000 mail-in ballot envelopes, which are attestations with people's signatures in them, from Delaware County alone since 2020, all the way up until the most recent election in November of 2024. And the conservative estimate is about 40% of them are fake. That's a conservative estimate. We brought that up to the courts, and we're going to talk about the courts in a minute, but remind me later. I owe a call back to Harry and Marley. I think I copied you. I sent out, we'd like to revive some of these lawsuits, a couple of them. And I owe Harry a call back and Marley a call back. We're doing work in Nevada, I think you know about, with Andy Thompson and several other states. But I'd really like to circle around and, sit down with Harry and yourself and go after California with the evidence that you have now.
So yeah, it's unbelievable. It's verifiable. It can stand up in a court, and there it is. Just amazing stuff. This is what's happening to our elections, and this is what you're after. So how does this roll forward now to this? You call it the King's Bench. What's that? What's happening there? How did we get here?
Well, for the last 4 years, and you can see it now in the courts, in the federal courts, it's not good enough to go in and say the courts are corrupt. The courts are corrupt. The judges are corrupt. You have to develop an evidentiary base. And what we've been doing for 4 years is, I think some people are saying, well, you keep filing all this litigation and it doesn't work. It's senseless because you keep losing. And what the courts haven't realized, and the corrupt judges haven't realized, and the corrupt clerks haven't realized, is that we did this with great purpose. What we've been doing is mapping out who the corrupt clerks are, all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, who the corrupt judges are, so that we can actually charge them. So what we've been doing, a lot of people say, Greg, you got 135 lawsuits filed in multiple counties at every level of the court: common pleas court, Commonwealth Court, Superior Court, federal district courts, the Third Circuit, the U.S. Supreme Court, Pennsylvania Supreme Court. You've got cases all over the place, and you're getting your head kicked in all of them. I said, we're not getting our head kicked in. What we're doing is we're developing the evidentiary base, because where this all leads to eventually is actions. There's 3 different actions. In Pennsylvania specifically, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court has a provision, and it's called the King's Bench provision. And that provision says that when you've reached an impasse and you've got courts or judges that are so hopelessly corrupt that you cannot get relief in the lower courts, you can file an application with a King's Bench. Now, they take that really seriously. It's hard to get a King's Bench, but what we've developed is we have over 4 different cases. We have the 2020 election, but we also have the most recent election, ballot cleansing, ballot candidate cleansing, redistricting, illegal district redistricting, where we have multiple jurisdictions where we're being quashed by corrupt elements. So what we've done is we've gone to the Supreme Court and we said, here are the dirty judges, here are their names. And this is what they did: docket tampering, wire fraud, mail fraud, entering opinions, ex parte communications, collusion, conspiracy. And these all fall under King's Bench. They fall under, even if we get quashed at the U.S. Supreme Court, which has been happening quite a bit, what happens is there's different actions in the courts that no one takes advantage of. You might have heard of them, but there's QUITAM, QUITAM, and that's where you go to for federal. I'm going to say for federal, you can do it, QUITAM actions at the state level, but at the federal level, you file a QUITAM. And what a QUITAM is if you're going after federal officials, the court that handles that, the jurisdiction to go after federal agencies, the DOJ, and the people that we've been mapping out. Well, you file it in the District of Columbia. It's the District Court of the District of Columbia, it's federal court. That's the court with the jurisdiction to do, federal. And what happens is you give it to the U.S. Attorney General, which is now Pam Bondi. You say, okay, here's all our evidence. Here are all the bad guys. Here are the specific charges. Now, would you like to prosecute this? And she has a time period where she can say, well, she may not. It doesn't mean that she's not interested, but she's got so much to do. We're like, okay, we're hoping she takes something like this as it comes. But if she doesn't, a QUITAM brought by the U.S. Attorney General, 95%, you're going to get a conviction if she takes it. But if she doesn't take it, she can go, okay, I'm going to defer it back to you. You can prosecute it as pro se, and we're pro se. So that might bring the odds down to 75 to 85%, but they're still very high. So one way or the other, with a QUITAM, which is it's a specific rule for corruption and corrupt federal officials, we can move that forward. QUITAM. Then there's a thing called 42 USC 1983, 1985, 1986, and those are civil rights actions. And you can file them in the different district courts. And then again, the people bringing them, we're all pro se. We can bring them to the courts and we become the prosecutors. It's a civilian filed criminal action, or it's a civil action with the 42 USC, but usually you're including your 18 USC, 241, 242, 1505, 1510, 1346. You're filing your criminal charges as well, and you're bringing them forward. It's taken 4 years to get to a point, the level, the threshold level for a U.S. Attorney General to take on a QUITAM filed by civilians, I'm going to say it, is very high. 4 years to get to this point. The threshold level to go to a federal judge with a 42 USC, other people, it's not a RICO, but it's similar to a RICO, okay? But it's not a RICO. Courts hate RICOs. But they have to, it's a very high threshold. You have to have documented evidence. Very similar now at the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, the equivalent to those, it's called a King's Bench. We have brought forward 2,100 pages of exhibits, 2,100 pages, and a 28-page filing where we detail the corruption, specific charges of judges, clerks, political operatives, and it is damning. Now, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court decides not to take it and assume original jurisdiction under a King's Bench. then we go 42 USC, key Tom. It's just an escalation, but it's taken 4 years to get to this point, okay, where we can now get the assistance and the attention of Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, the new federal judges that are coming in, new U.S. attorneys, so, that are appointed by Trump, who will take these actions, and now they don't have to start from scratch. They're not going back and saying, hey, I gotta sort out what happened for the past 10 years or the past 4 years. We've taken all that evidence and we've said, we got you. We've been working. We've been mapping this all out. Here's 2,100 pages, and we got another 10,000 behind it. We were co-defendants with President Trump. I was a co-defendant with President Trump in 2 defamation cases that we won. And when I say win, people say, well, you never went to trial. I said, no, they withdrew and discontinued with prejudice in favor of the defendants. That was us. That was a win. That's considered a win. One of the only cases in the country where we won. And we also won again in the case with Newsmax and Hogan Gidley and Margot Cleveland. We were co-defendants with her as well, and those people, and we won that as a discontinued. Actually, that was dismissed with prejudice in favor of the defendants by the judge. So we know how to win. We know how to map things out. We've got the bad guys. I'm working with Andy Thompson in Nevada, and this will be of interest to you because Andy is a pastor, and they have a code in Nevada. It's code 410. It's Nevada code 410. I think it's 410.270. I don't know. I can't remember. But what it does is it allows an elector, of which he is, to ask for an audit and to preserve evidence. He's got evidence of election fraud. And what's unique about that case, and I think what Harry is going to be very interested is, they've turned statistics into voodoo. They've turned it into hocus pocus. They said, well, statistics aren't a science unless they want them to be. So you have overwhelming statistical evidence of the fraud. And they've been saying, well, that's speculative. It's not speculative. So what we've been able to do, Andy and Mark Cook was working on that as well. Several other people. What we were able to do is we've survived multiple attempts to dismiss for standing, attempts to dismiss for jurisdiction, attempts to dismiss for service. And we've survived each of these thresholds, okay, because of the experience we've gained over the last 4 years. What's important to Harry and you and Marley Hornick's efforts at United Sovereign is that statistics is a science. In Nevada, they had 69,000 mail-in ballots show up a week after the election. They had lost, Trump had won the election there, but they said, we need the congressional seats, right? We need them. Same way they needed, 6 congressional seats in California. We need them. So a nationally renowned mathematician, Ed Solomon, who is amazing, on par with Harry, the experience that they have, he did a complete statistical analysis. What they found was 97% of the 69,000 mail-in ballots had no vote for Trump or Kamala Harris. They were all for the undercard. That is, he did the math on it, and he spends like 2 pages, because he had to use that evidence, the statistical evidence, and it's in the quadrillions to 1. It cannot happen. So what we're going to do is try to get a recount. So now that they know there's going to be a recount there, they're fighting because they want to update the Dominion machines. They said, well, we're going to have to destroy all the evidence because we have to do a Dominion upgrade. What Andy's fighting now out there is saying, whoa, you've got to preserve this evidence. He says, I don't care if you upgrade the machines, but you at least have to take a forensic image. Oh, that's impossible. We can't do that. We're just going to have to wipe all the evidence out. And that's where the fight is now. And that's where the fight in California is going to go, from the most recent election. That's where you, me, Harry, and Marley, and whoever joins us in California, that's where we're going to go there. It's where we're going in Nevada. It's where we're going in Utah. It's where we're going in Georgia. It's where we're going in Pennsylvania. So we're now providing the hard physical evidence to Pam Bondi, to our new attorney generals, to our new U.S. attorneys. There's 94 federal courts and there's 94 U.S. attorneys in the country. Most of the U.S. attorneys we had in the Biden administration were corrupt. And they didn't have to be directly corrupt. I'm not going to say they were stuffing their pockets full of money, but what they did is federal law requires the DOJ and the FBI to investigate. It is required to investigate. Now, they can choose their prosecutorial discretion and say, well, we got bigger fish to fry. I got cartels, I got drugs, I got human trafficking, and election fraud is here. So we're going to use our prosecutorial discretion and decide not to prosecute. But what they can't do is they can't not investigate. So what the DOJ did under Richard Pilger, who was the head of the Criminal Referral Division for election fraud, is they crafted a narrative that we documented via emails. So what they said was, we're not going to investigate as a matter of policy. Right in the FOIA request, right in our U.S. Supreme Court case, there's an email between U.S. Attorney General Barr and Richard Pilger that says, hey, I don't want to investigate. And Richard Pilger says, we can't hold him off for long. It's a violation of federal law. Well, we're going to do it as a matter of policy. So what Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard, what they're all running into, Elon Musk, President Trump, even though they have the power of the executive branch, what they're running into is the nomenclatura that has taken over our federal agencies and is still embedded in a rear guard action because they're waiting for 2026, okay, to obstruct them and obstruct investigations. If we get the investigations, then that's going to lead to, do we decide to prosecute or not to prosecute? So, I know this is a little technical, but it's something that we've been learning, and executing on for 4 years now. And we're really at a perfect time, a perfect convergence of time where we can take the citizenry and the grassroots patriots and the pro se patriots, and we can take all the work that's been done, all the people, Joe, you and I are on, Steve Stern is on, you've been on his show. We can take all of the grassroots patriots across the country who have been fighting this out. And now we can take all of their evidence, all of their mapping out, who the bad guys are, and hand that to the people who can actually do something about it. That's where we are.
That's exciting.
It is. It's a mouthful, but
what you guys have done is really
exciting.
amazing. It's amazing too. It's not an easy, simple explanation either. You can't just say, "Oh, this." No, you've been working really hard over the last 4 years plus, trying to get to the bottom of this, and you've done great work. Just incredible. You and Leah, great work. So thank you so much. Hey, Greg, how can people help you? Where can they go to support you and help you or learn more about what's going on?
Well, the platform you can go to donate, and we do need money, is these filings are very, very expensive, thousands of dollars to do it. We've had some very supportive patriots that have been helping us, but people are, they're exhausted. And you can go to www.patriot.online. It's .online, not .com, not .net. www.patriot.online. You can go and hit a donate button there. And that's what, we'd like you to do. Hit that donate button, $5, $10, $20, whatever you guys can do. Every penny is appreciated. I mean, we burn through, I don't know how much paper, filing fees. Every filing fee is $300, $500, $70, $90, and they're flying out. We're doing, 10, 20 of these a day, and it adds up. So we'd really like your help there. There's a good social media platform there that you're familiar with. I love the Gateway Pundit. Tell Jim I gave him, gave the plug and you, but we have Patriot.online. There's a social media platform there it's pretty well received. We got a good readership there, and you're going to find our filings there, the downloads, the PDFs, and what I would encourage people to do. What we plan to do is we want to get you got yourself, Harry, Marley, and Linda Sinkowitz. There's people that you and I both know that are bringing pro se actions. What we hope to do is we want to get 10,000 of us, and I think there would be 10,000 of us if they knew how. So we've got a thing called Patriot Internet Corp. I'm going to be sending you the prospectus, and we're coming out with this new platform that will allow people to file pro se and learn from all of our mistakes, all of the problems that we've overcome. So everyone heard about standing. They heard, oh, there's no standing. Oh, there's no evidence. There's no jurisdiction. The things that they've been using, corrupt judges, by the way, the things that they've been using to quash cases, we have the solutions for them. We have the case law. We have the means, so you know how to write something that's going to survive a pro se action and get through preliminary objections and motions to dismiss, so that we can get to the merits of the case. So sorry, long-winded answer to a very short question, but we want people to join us in the fight, and we need funding for that fight. And if we don't do it, 2026 is what they're going for. 2025 is a test. 2026, they're going to steal they're going to try to steal the elections.
Yeah. We got to make some major league changes. We got to make them quick. We all know it. This is like Elon says, this is the end of civilization. I mean, it really does come down to that good versus evil. We're going to have truth and accuracy in our elections. Are we going to be a communist country or not? I mean, I argue that some states where you can't win an election, you can't because they're broken. I'd say that's a communist country, and we've got to get rid of that. We've got to get, because I think 80% of Americans probably agree with Trump that it's okay to send an MS-13 gangbanger who was trafficking humans and was also beating his wife, who's not a citizen of the United States. It's okay to send him back to his home country of El Salvador. I'd say probably 80% of Americans are with that, maybe even more. So that's what it comes down to. These people aren't voting for these knuckleheads that are pushing those insane policies. Those people are being, I think their elections are stolen. That's how they get in place. We got to stop it because it's insanity. We need freedom. We need to stop this communism takeover of America. So, Greg, you're a big part of it. There's so much there. We'll have to catch up again soon. Really love having you on. Lots to go through.
I'll talk the bark off a tree if you let me. So I'm sorry. I hope I didn't get too
Not
much.
at all. I could listen to you for hours anyways. Appreciate it so much. We'll get you back soon. Keep in touch. Let me know what's going on, and appreciate all you do. You've been an American patriot and a good person fighting for this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. You too. Been a pleasure.
Yeah. Take good care.
Okay.
Thank you. And we'll be back tomorrow on the Joe Hoff Show. Thanks so much to Greg Stenstrom and his good companion Leah Hoops and all the people there that are helping him. We're gonna win this country back. President Trump's on our side. God's on our side. The truth's on our side. We'll do it. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, Greg.